Hello and welcome to another episode on Jewish Charlotte Mason. My name is Bethany Mandel, and today, as everyone is gearing up for next school year and we're thinking about tutoring options and class options, I wanted to take a few minutes to go through some of the resources that I have found for teaching Judaic subjects online in some capacity. And so this is actually going to be a two-part episode. Today's episode is going to talk about sort of live tutoring options, things that your kids can interact with in a personal way. And the next episode is going to be about ways that your kids can sort of watch Jewish learning programming, but it's not tailored to them, it's not live. Everything has its pluses and minuses. Plus side of live is obviously your kids can ask questions and feel more engaged, but you're kind of tied to a schedule. On the other end, if you're watching things sort of at your leisure, you're watching things at your leisure, and you can work through things as slowly as you want to go through them, and you can rewatch things, which we find helpful when we are doing piano lessons, for example. We find that really helpful to watch them over and over and over. So without further ado, I wanted to go through a couple of the options that I have found. It's the result of a lot of research, not just on my part, but on the part of other Jewish parents who are looking into homeschool options for next year and sort of outsourcing a little bit what they're hoping to do. So the first option that I wanted to tell you about, we actually signed up for. I can't speak to it, but I've pre-screened it a little bit because my daughter is doing one of their classes next year, or this year rather. It's called Gesher, and it's run by a mom who is homeschooling down in Florida. And it sounded so interesting that I asked her to record a video about her business model and about the programming that she's doing. So I think one of the important things is you have to register pretty quickly this August, but she's going to have more and more options down the line. So this is a video that I think really perfectly explains what Gesher is and what it could bring to your family and your homeschool.
Hey Bethany, thanks for having me. My name is Chani Kirshner, and I live here with my family in Boca Raton, Florida. First, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been working in Jewish education for almost 20 years, both in formal Jewish education as a teacher and in informal Jewish education as a student activities director and a youth director. We started homeschooling as a family a couple years ago, before it was cool, and it's been amazing. We're so happy and grateful for this opportunity and to be able to do this every day and to just, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm here today to talk to you about Gesher. A few years ago, I launched Gesher locally in Boca Raton, and basically what Gesher was and still is the Judaic studies program for kids who are homeschooling or in public school, for parents who wanted their kids to have a Jewish education, even though they weren't in traditional day school. So basically we would meet once or twice a week in my home. I would do Parsha and Dinim and Chumash, and we would do all sorts of fun projects, and it was really, really awesome. Of course, when the pandemic hit in March, we had to move to virtual learning, which we did, and though it was not as awesome as in person, it was still really, really great. And it got me thinking, if we can do this online, why do we have to limit ourselves locally to just kids in Boca? Why can't we, help kids all over the country and all over the world? So that's actually exactly what we're going to do this fall. We transitioned Gesher from an in-person physical program to be completely online this fall. And what it is synchronous live classes for kids in elementary school, K to 5th grade. We even have a couple early middle schoolers signed up for a Chumash class. The reason why we do it synchronous is to optimize the children's learning experience, to have that face-to-face contact, and to most closely replicate a Judaic studies classroom online. And the classes meet actually a few times during the day. You can choose from either morning classes or afternoon classes. Different classes meet once a week or twice a week. So if you want to find out more, definitely check out my website. It's gesherprogram.com. That's gesherprogram.com. And I would love for you to reach out to me if you have any questions or if you just want to talk about the program some more. I'm happy to talk to you, especially in this time when we're kind of figuring things out, looking for schooling options for our kids for this fall. We're all in this boat together. We're all kind of figuring things out as we go, and I'm happy to help and be a part of your solution. So thanks so much, Bethany, for having me, and have a great day. Bye.
So as always, all of the links are going to be down in the show notes. Another option that I've come across is called Macomb. It's based in Toronto, so all of their charges on their website are actually in Canadian dollars, which benefits us a little bit as Americans. It is for ages pre-K 4, so 4 years old, through 5. And they have classes. It's sort of an after school program, so it's in the afternoons, and they're starting up in September. There's a couple of Judaic options that are worth checking out. Another thing that I mentioned in a previous video about Hebrew, and if you haven't watched that, please go back and check it out because it was rich with lots of resources. Outschool, I mentioned Doron, who teaches amazing classes on Outschool, lots of conversational Hebrew classes, and she also teaches classes around the Jewish holidays using language related to the holidays. So it's technically secular, but there is some conversation related to the holidays, which are worth checking out. Another option, there's a program that my neighbor used last year that she really enjoyed called Bonim Beyachad. It's an Israeli company, and they have a lot of options, and they also sort of tailor things. They're flexible. They'll tailor to sort of what you're asking for. They offer tutoring in Judaics and Hebrew and secular subjects. Based on a curriculum. It's called Bonim Beyachad. They say that they start in the early years, but in my experience, I would say 4th or 5th grade is really where you could start, and it goes all the way through high school. It's an Israeli-based company. My neighbor gave it a resounding seal of approval last year before she made Aliyah this year. So another option, there's two actual similar options. One is called Varsity Tutors, and they teach Hebrew and Judaics, and they do bar and bat mitzvah tutoring as well. So if you're thinking about sort of bar and bat mitzvah tutoring on Zoom, also worth checking out. And then there's another option that's similar called Torah Tutors, and this was also something that I kind of pre-screened and chatted with the folks there, and I thought it was worth showing you guys a little video about what they do at Torah Tutors, because they have a lot of individual and also small group options, which is nice because your kids can sort of be in a group with other kids and to the best that they can form a little bit of a relationship over Zoom. So this is a video about Torah Tutors that I wanted my viewers to check out.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rudolph, director of TorahTutors.org, and thank you, Bethany, for inviting me to talk a little bit about what we do. Torah Tutors was founded about 10 years ago when online meetings and classes were still a little bit new, to provide students of all ages all over the world with quality Jewish learning tailored to their needs and interests and background. We have tutors who work with adults, we have tutors who work with kids, or both. Of course, the relevant question for most people watching a video about Jewish homeschooling is, what can Torah Tutors do for my kids? And the answer is pretty much whatever you're looking for. I'll give you an example from my own experience as a Torah Tutors tutor. My first experience with Torah Tutors was when I started teaching a group of girls in a small community on the West Coast. And the West Coast is significant because it's 3 hours time difference from me, which meant that we were able to schedule well. They needed after school time, which is not a time that I would have been able to do, because for me it was after my kids went to bed. Having online tutoring opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of scheduling. The girls that I was working with, actually in that case, were not homeschooled, but they were in schools that didn't have extensive text learning. Their parents really wanted them to engage with Jewish texts in a serious way. So as far as that goes, they were sort of homeschooled or Torah Tutors schooled. When we started, they were around 10 years old, so we really work with a range of ages, and they actually spanned a few years, these girls, different grade levels. But we were able to learn together. We started off meeting just 1 hour a week, because that's what worked for their schedules at the time. We did Navi for half the time, Mishnah for half the time, and that was really at the parents' request. And we talked to the parents about their goals, and as time went on, made changes, adjusted, switched books when we finished one sefer, and really adjusted for skills and topic as the girls grew and the group shifted. I like to tell people that I'm still learning with 2 of those girls now, almost 8 years later, and we've shifted obviously what we've done, what we've been doing since then as well. We're learning now twice a week. That's something that they were able to do, and we've moved on from Mishnah to Gemara. So really, obviously once a week is not a huge amount, maybe twice a week also, depending what your goals are and the background and what else you're doing in your homeschooling or in your educational pursuits. But we really, can work with you on scheduling and topic and goals, and really gear the learning to the students. People ask what ages we teach and what topics we cover, and my answer really is we'll work it out with you. We have experienced teachers teaching all areas of Jewish studies. We do Hebrew language, really whatever you want your kids to learn, what they want to learn. I had one student who really, we jumped around to topics based on her interests. She wanted to know more about why we keep kosher and different laws about keeping kosher. So we did that. We spent some time on her special bat mitzvah parsha. And really, whatever you want your kids to learn or they want to learn, whether it's to match a typical day school curriculum or just go with interests and flow, we can do that. If that sounds overwhelming and you don't know what you want your kids to learn, we can work with you on that as well. And that really is the beauty of individualized education, as certainly you know if you're homeschooling or thinking about homeschooling. And the beauty of doing it online with an online tutor is that we can find you the right tutor available at times that work for you to connect with your kids. We really have a pool, across the world. We can do that either one-on-one, or we can do it in a small group of students working together and really work together to give them the best Jewish learning experience. I'll invite you to check out our website, torahtutors.org, or send me an email, srudolph@torahtutors.org. And I'll wish all our viewers hatzlacha, on good luck and success on your homeschooling journey.
So that's it. It's a pretty quick rundown. There's not a lot of live programming. Another thing that I recommend, if you live in a Jewish community, post on your community listserv and community Facebook groups asking for tutoring options. A lot of people are home this year because they're not going to college, or things are slower in COVID times. So you might be able to find a tutor who will come sit in your backyard or will tutor your kids on Zoom, and it's definitely worth asking around. I find it's really important to have an idea of what exactly you want, because it's a lot easier to say, like, I'd like my child to go over this book. Is there someone available to do that who feels comfortable doing that, instead of sort of posting an amorphous, I'm looking for a Judaic teacher. So it's kind of up to the parent, in my opinion, to sort of set the parameters of what you want covered. But then at that point, I think there's a lot of options out there to find tutoring. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and click like and comment if you know of any other sort of live resources for Judaic tutoring that I missed. This is a hard thing to research, and I've done the best I can, but Lord knows I'm only human. So if you have other suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you so much.